my boyfriend ended up being my stepdad. So I was dating this kid, and me and this kid had, like, the best relationship. He was 19, and I was 17. And, I mean, we were literally always together. And my mom would always call him hot and stuff like that, but, you know, I thought that's just what moms do. And I didn't think of it in that type of way. So one day, my boyfriend got mad at me. And he was like, I'm gonna F your mom, become your stepdad, and boss you around if you keep up that attitude. And, I mean, who would think that he's gonna actually try to do that? And I said, I would like to see you try. But again, we were just in a little argument, so about a month or two goes on, and I find messages from my boyfriend to my mom and vice versa. They were, like, sexting, and I saw things I did not want to see from my mother. So I went to go confront both of them, and I confronted my mom first, and, like, she wouldn't tell me nothing. She just told me to get out of her face. Oh, but my boyfriend told me they have been hooking up. But he told me I was overreacting because it's just my mom. Oh, just wait till you find out what happens next. I'm running out of time, like, for part 2. Part 2 on how my boyfriend became my stepdad. So continuing on with the story, I told him that he was disgusting, and then I just ended our relationship. And, like, at first, he wouldn't let me break up with him. But then finally, we were just both like, okay, this is not going to work out. So about 2 days later, I come home and I see him at my house. And I'm like, dude, we're not getting back together, so don't try. Like, you're weird. And he has the audacity to go, I'm not here for you. I'm here for your mother. And at that point, I was like, I'm moving out. And that night, I heard some noises that I didn't want to hear. And then my mom ended up getting pregnant again. She's only like 34, I think, but he's 19. So the age gap isn't really that big of a difference. But it's the point that my boyfriend decided to F my mom, get her pregnant, and now I don't even know how I'm related to this child. Yeah, so now my mom's pregnant with my ex-boyfriend's child. I mean, I'm still nice to the kid because it's my step-sibling's dad. But at the same time, I secretly want to, like, you know, inject him out of the game. In the game, I want to inject him out of his life, so yeah. Story time of how I caught my teacher and my best friend doing the dirty. So everything was fine up until the middle of the year when she started acting really strange, and so did he. So at the time, I was 13 and she was 14. And I'm pretty sure my teacher was in his mid-20s or 30s. So basically, she's the type of girl who literally hates school and would do anything to get out of class. Then I noticed her getting early to class and not leaving until everybody else left. Then I started paying a little more attention, and he would always walk by her desk and slip her notes and candy and just weird stuff, and it was really, really strange to me. He also moved to her desk right next to his, which his was all the way in the back left corner of the classroom. He would also always make jokes with her, which I didn't really understand until I found out they were sleeping together. So on Friday, my mom messaged her parents asking if they could pick me up Monday because my parents were going out of town that weekend and I hated riding the bus. Well, I'm guessing she didn't know that I was going home with her Monday. So that Monday, I got into her mom's car and I asked her mom where she was. Her mom said that she was failing math and her math teacher offered to tutor her. This teacher was also brand new. I'm running out of time, so for part 2. Here's part 2 of how I found out my best friend was sleeping with our teacher. So continuing on with the story, I told her mom that I've never seen him tutor somebody before. Plus, she told me her grades were sky high in that class. I ended up forgetting my pencil pouch, which had my keys to my house in it, so I had to go back anyways. And when I went back, the door was locked. And, like, he had something over it or whatever, but I could see under it because he didn't cover it all the way. And she was on his desk, and he was kissing her or doing weird stuff. I knew her mom wouldn't believe me if I told her what I saw, so I just told her it was an emergency and she was in trouble. So we booked it back to the classroom, and at first we didn't see them, and then she seen a foot come from beside the desk. Mind you, we're peeking under it, so we couldn't really see much. She started banging on the classroom door and screaming. I've never seen her this mad. I was honestly terrified that I ran into a separate classroom. The teacher to this day, I'm pretty sure he's still in jail, and she is still homeschooled and grounded with no phone. We found out that he was married with 4 kids. Well, was married. Story time of how I found out that my 13-year-old sister was sleeping with my teacher and nobody ever did anything about it. So this is the first time that I'm actually telling anybody because I'm finally old enough to realize that all of this was just wrong. So at the time, my sister was in 8th grade and I was in 6th grade. So my sister claimed that she needed extra help in history, and I guess my mom trusted him because after school he would take me and my sister to his house and then help my sister. And he would always say he had to get ready before he tutored her because they would go in the room with the door shut. But he said that was the only way for her to learn fast. And while we were waiting for him to get ready, me and my sister would play this literal funnest and most satisfying game ever. It's where you grow little plant dudes, and me and her literally got so addicted to it. The link to that is also going to be in my bio. And then he would start playing the game with her, trying to get on her good side. And then they make me wait in the living room for about an hour while they study. And every day she would come out saying, oh my god, I learned so much today. I mean, she did learn something. Anyways, I'm running out of time for part 2. Part 2 of how I caught my 13-year-old sister sleeping with her teacher. So continuing on with the story, I was just waiting outside the room until they got done. And one day my mom called me and said that it was an emergency and she had to pick us up early. So I knocked on the door really lightly and then I opened the door. And I'm surprised it wasn't locked. And I opened the door and I see my 13-year-old sister and her 42-year-old teacher just getting it on. I mean, I ain't no snitch, so I didn't say nothing. At the time, I was 11 years old in 6th grade and I high-fived her. Then the teacher bribed me with $500 to not say anything. Again, I was in 6th grade at the time, so my parents would definitely wonder where I got the money from. So the teacher told me that if I let them keep doing their thing, he'll make this fake raffle and say that I won it. Because me and my sister were so close, I never snitched on her. And this is the first time I'm telling the story. Me and my sister don't talk anymore. So if you're that teacher that gave me $500 to keep effing my older sister, you are probably one of the most disgusting people that I've ever met. And if this story gets out there, sorry for saying this, but I need to get this out there. John Wilson, you deserve to rot in jail. Okay, so I went to Target about 30 minutes ago, and I was looking for iPad cases, and the iPad cases and the phone cases are all together, but everything is locked up to prevent stealing. There was these two adorable girls. They were literally looked so cute and innocent. Pigtails and everything. The mom or dad or parent or guardian or whatever was nowhere to be found. Well, wasn't by them. And at max, they were 4 and probably 7. They were tiny little adorable things. One of them pulls a hammer out of their bag and starts hitting one of the phone case things, trying to get it out of the security thing. I already knew what they were doing. And I was like, girls, you're not gonna be able to get that out of there. Just go to the cases over there, because there was a little section of dollar cases that wasn't security protected. The 4-year-old or the younger one looks at me and goes, F you, B, but says the cuss words, throws their little hammer at my foot but doesn't hit me with it, then kicks me, then grabs the phone case security box thing, calls me a FAGG, then you know the rest, and said, no, I'm stealing this one, bro. Storytime of how I found out that I was pregnant with my stepbrother's baby. So basically I was 16 at the time and my mom didn't let me date, so I had to keep dating this guy a secret from my mom. And every weekend this guy would come over and she was dating him, but she didn't think that we were ready to meet his kids yet. Okay, so to be able to hang out with my boyfriend, me and him both told our parents that we were going to a friend's house. And my best friend's mom does not care what she does, so me and him would both always go there. So about a year into dating this kid, me and him were both tired of keeping it a secret from our parents. And legit, coincidentally, the same exact night that I was going to tell my mom about my boyfriend is the same exact night her boyfriend was going to bring his kids over so we could meet them. So I was going to wait till after we met them so she was in a better mood. And when my mom's boyfriend got there, so did my boyfriend. Me and him literally don't know how we didn't catch on. So we both decided not to tell our parents yet. And then me and my boyfriend decided that we were just going to take advantage of it. Because my mom's boyfriend was going to be moving in, so that means I can live with my boyfriend. I'm running out of time for part 2. Part 2, I found out that I was pregnant with my stepbrother's baby. Continuing on with the story, my mom's boyfriend moved in, and because my boyfriend was my mom's boyfriend's son, he also moved in. So every time my mom and her boyfriend, aka my boyfriend's dad, would go to sleep, me and my boyfriend would always end up in the same bed. I don't know how we hid this for such a long time, but they ended up telling us that they were getting married, so me and my boyfriend decided that we were going to tell them that we had been dating for, I think it was 2 years at the time. My mom and his dad were absolutely okay with it, and at that, they made us share a room in our new house. And an exact week after they got married, I ended up taking a pregnancy test just for fun, and it came out positive. I was literally so scared, and 2 days later, my mom told me that she was pregnant. So as we speak now, I have a 2-year-old brother by my boyfriend's dad, and I have a 2-year-old baby by my stepbrother. Oh, also for another story time, I caught my stepbrother, aka my boyfriend, sleeping with my mom. Yeah.
Crazy story time about how I found my aunt and my boyfriend hooking up at a family function. So every year my mom and stepdad would have a Christmas party and everyone from both sides of the family would come. And I also invited my boyfriend. And at this time my boyfriend and I were both juniors in high school. So everybody came to the party and everything was going good. Well, an hour into the party, all the adults were super drunk. So before we all opened gifts, I decided to help my mom clean up dinner. So while I'm washing the dishes, I look over and my aunt and boyfriend are talking a lot. And she started to get really touchy with him, but I didn't think anything of it because she was super drunk. So after I'm done cleaning up, we all start opening gifts. And my boyfriend goes up to my room to go get his phone off the charger. And after he went upstairs, my aunt was like, oh, I need to go throw up. So about 10 minutes goes past and my boyfriend's still up in the room grabbing his phone, so I went to check on him. And I walk upstairs to see my aunt and my boyfriend laying on my bed making out. For part 2. Part 2 to how I caught my aunt and my boyfriend hooking up at a family function. So like I said, they are laying on my bed making out. Doors wide open, they don't even bother to shut the door. And both of their shirts are off. And I think I should just put in here, my aunt is 28. She's on my stepdad's side. She's really young. So if they look up and my aunt's just drunk as fuck looking at me, and she's like, do you want to join? Like, bitch, what the fuck? So I'm just like shook, and I start screaming. Everybody rushes up the stairs, and my mom pushes me out of the way and sees my boyfriend and my aunt laying on my bed with their shirts off. So my mom starts screaming at everybody. So my mom calls the cops, says that an adult is touching an underage boy, and she calls his mom, tells her what happened. So my boyfriend and I broke up, so that spread around the whole school, and word got out that they actually started seeing each other.
Crazy story time about how my sister and I found out that we were hooking up with the same guy. So I was a freshman, my sister was a sophomore, and there was this really cute guy in her grade that I liked. But I could never find a way to talk to him because we weren't in the same grade and had none of the same classes. And my sister and I were not close at all. Like, we didn't tell each other shit, we didn't really talk to each other or anything. So by that being said, we never told each other about the boys that we liked. We just didn't have that bond. Well, track season came around. So they called all the people down who wanted to do track, and I saw him walk past my classroom window, so I decided to go too. So I signed up for track, and him and I started to talk a little bit. We exchanged numbers, and he was popular, I wasn't, so he didn't want to be seen with me. So after attendance, we would go to this graveyard right by the track and hook up. Well, the next day, we had a meet in our school. So him and I went to the graveyard, hooked up, and that's when it started getting crazy, like for part 2.
Part 2. So on our way back from doing our thing, we had saw a group of kids that were behind this bush, and they were chiefing. And we didn't think that they saw us because we were like, oh, they're just smoking, like whatever. So I go back to the meet, everything is good until the end of the meet. One of my best friends sends me this picture that I guess somebody posted on their story, and it was a picture of me and the kid hooking up. And next thing I know, my sister is blowing up my phone. And like I said, my sister and I didn't have a good bond, so I didn't give a shit what she had to say because I didn't know. So then I got home. And as soon as I walked into my room, my sister was literally waiting there for me. And she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, him and I are in a relationship. And I'm like, bitch, what the fuck? And she was like, well, it's on the down low, but we're in a relationship. What the fuck is wrong with you? You're a whore. So then she decides to drive both of us over to his house. So we all decided to just stay away from each other. But then they got back together. So I just figured that wasn't fair, and I'm still hooking up with him while they're together.
Crazy ass story time about how my best friend's parents walked in on me sleeping with my best friend's brothers. And yes, I said brothers. So my freshman year, I became best friends with this girl. And she had 2 older, hot-ass brothers. One was in college, and one was a senior. Well, it was Christmas break, and her older brother from college was home. And my parents let me go with them to Florida for Christmas break. They had a super nice beach house, and I was sharing a room with my best friend. And the boys were sharing a room. And our room was connected because there was a bathroom in the middle. Well, my best friend got super sick the first 3 days of the trip, so she didn't do anything with us. So I was hanging out with the boys all the time. Well, the one night we were on the deck and we started to play Truth or Dare. And one of them asked, would you sleep with us? And I said, yeah. So at around 3 a.m., I snuck into their room, and things started to get real nasty. There are kids on this app, so just use your imagination. And things started to get really loud, and we woke their parents up, like for part 2. Part 2. So we thought that we woke their parents up, and we heard someone walking up the stairs. So I ran into the bathroom, hid, and they asked if everything was okay, and I was just like, oh, I'm not feeling good. I think I caught whatever my best friend has. So they went back downstairs, and we thought they went back to sleep. They were never asleep. So we decided to go onto the deck and finish the nastiness that we were doing. And I was like, oh, okay, we don't have to be that quiet now. Because their bedroom was in the front of the house and the porch was on the back of the house. And we were on the 2nd floor, and below that there was another porch with a fire pit and everything. And I could see below us. Well, out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw somebody walk into the house. But stupid me, I just ignored it. Not even a minute later, I hear the sliding door open. And I hear, and we all turn around and everybody's standing there. So they sent me home and told my parents. But I didn't get grounded because low-key my mom knew I was a hoe. Story time about how I tried to get my boyfriend back for cheating on me, but I ended up with an STD instead. So a little background information. I was dating this guy for about 7 months whenever I was in high school. And I would always hang out with him, his guy friends, and their girlfriends. Well, the one night we were hanging out at my house and he kept checking my phone. And he said it was because he was waiting for his mom to text my phone. So then he had to go to the bathroom and he asked to take my phone with him. And I said no because that's weird as fuck. So while he's in the bathroom, I get a text from a random number. And it's a bunch of videos that my boyfriend took of him doing the nasty with other girls.
And there were like 15 videos, all different girls. So by this time, he's been in the bathroom for like 15 minutes. So I go to confront him while he's in the bathroom. Like, I do not care at this point. And he's gone. My bathroom window is wide open. My curtains are broken. So then I start to text all of his best friends. Like for part 2. Part 2. So it turns out the person who sent it to me was one of the girls in my friend group. So at that point, every single person in that friend group was dead to me and I needed to get every single one of them back. So like I said, I started texting all my ex's best friends and I asked every single one of them if they wanted to hook up. 4 of them said yes, the other 3 just blocked me. And the 4 who said yes all had girlfriends in our friend group. Well, the girls in my friend group had no idea, so they invited me to their party. And at that party, it was my mission to do the dirty with every single one of those guys. Well, there was this bathroom in the basement, which nobody knew about except the girl whose house it was. So one after the other, I did the dirty with every single one of them in that bathroom. And I made sure to snap a picture or take a video, so that way I could send it to my boyfriend. I know, I'm crazy, get over it. Well, in the morning, my ex's closest best friend came over. Well, I did the dirty with him too, because my ex hated him being around me, because he was known for screwing other people's girlfriends. Okay, there's gonna be a part 3. Part 3. So a week later, I started having some problems down there. So I had my mom take me to the doctors. Turns out I have a fucking STD. And nobody knew about it, at least not yet. Well, my boyfriend came over that same day asking if we could get back together. So I thought, what an even better way to get back at him. Give him what I have. Mind you, I was still hooking up with all 4 of his best friends. And then like 2 weeks later, my boyfriend started talking to me about how he was also having problems down there. And I was like, oh, maybe you should go to the doctors. So after he went to the doctors, he texts me and he goes, yeah, I have an STD. So then I sent him all the videos of his best friends and I said, yeah, I hope you enjoy living with that for the rest of your life. And I also gave it to all of his friends and then they spread it to their girlfriends. Payback's a bitch. Storytime about how my boyfriend was cheating on me with my stepsister. So a little background information, my mom remarried whenever I was in 8th grade, and my stepdad had 2 daughters, one which was my age and we got along really well. Well, before my sisters and I went back to school, my mom wanted to go on a camping trip with everyone, and my boyfriend was coming because he was really close with my family. So while my stepsister and I are packing up, she starts acting really weird, and we're gonna call my boyfriend Kevin. She was like, oh, is Kevin still coming with us? And I was like, yeah. And then she goes, oh, are you and Kevin still together? And I'm like, we were never broken up. Like, the fuck? Like I said, she was just being super fucking weird. But anyways, we all get in the car, we drive up there, and her and Kevin start being super weird around each other. Like, they were being too touchy. Anytime that I wanted to go do something with Kevin, she would say, oh, Kevin, you can come do this instead. Well, that night, Kevin and I are sleeping in our tent. At least I thought he was. And I wake up to some loud noises in the other tent, like for part 2. Part 2. So like I said, I heard a bunch of noises and talking in my stepsister's tent, and I wake up and my boyfriend isn't in the tent. So I'd be very quiet getting out of my tent, and I go over to hers and I just listen. And oh bitch, I should have just confronted them because I got my motherfucking feelings hurt. He was telling her how he didn't love me at all and how he only wanted to be with her, and how every time that they kissed each other and screwed each other, he felt such a connection between them. So not only was he cheating physically, but they had a connection. Wonderful. So I open her tent and I confront them. This was the most degrading thing I've ever went through in my life. And I said, I heard you guys outside. And I'm just not the type of girl who's going to come at another girl because my man wants her. Because at that point, he's not my man. She goes, sit down, sweetie, we need to talk. Apparently they're in love. So they started dating. They're still dating. And my parents allowed it. So I distanced myself from all of them. Storytime about how I woke up to my best friend having a seizure. A little background information. So my close friend invited me over to his house to spend the night. And we're gonna call him Jay. Well, Jay and I got to his house, and his parents are really strict, so he had to sneak me in. So he told me to wait by the garage. And as soon as he opens the front door to his house, I hear his parents screaming. So he's inside fighting with his parents. I'm outside freezing my ass off. So an hour later, he comes out to get me, walks me through the garage, and I have to hide in this crawl space. So while I'm hiding in this crawl space, him and his parents are still arguing. And his parents walk past where I was like 5 times. So his mom gets in the car and leaves. She said she was going to kill herself. His dad comes into the garage, starts crying. I literally witnessed him have a mental fucking breakdown. Then his mom came back, said that she hated everybody. So then Jay purposely bangs his head off of the kitchen table 2 times. So when he came into the garage to get me, he had an ice pack on his head. Then we snuck up to his room like for part 2. Part 2. So like I said, he rushes me up to his room because his dad was in the basement and his mom left again, threatening to kill herself again. And while we're upstairs, he starts taking dabs. And we're up for a little bit and then we go to sleep. So at like 8 in the morning, we both wake up. He's on his phone, I'm on my phone. We're not facing each other. And then all of a sudden, I feel the bed start to shake, like a lot. So I turn over and this kid is having a full-blown fucking seizure. Like he's foaming at the mouth. His eyes are literally rolling in the back of his fucking head. So I get up and roll him over onto his side because I didn't want him to start choking. And I'm fucking freaking out and don't know what to do because I wasn't even supposed to be there in the first place. And he's like making all these types of noises. So I go and I run down the hallway. I try to find his parents' room. And I open the door and have to wake them up dead out of their sleep. And I was like, your son's having a seizure. So his mom runs over to the room and his dad's like, well, who the fuck are you? And why the fuck are you in my house? And I was like, your son told me that I could stay the night last night. Oh, like for part 3. Part 3. So like I said, his dad's like interrogating me right now. So they call an ambulance. His son leaves in the ambulance. They didn't go with him. And his dad's like, you're never allowed in this fucking house again. And then he asked me, did he take anything last night? And I'm like, he did dabs, but like, I didn't do anything because I don't do that stuff. So he goes over to where all of his dab stuff is and starts throwing the glass pieces in the garbage, making sure that he fucking breaks them all. And his mom comes over to me to comfort me because I'm literally like fucking crying because this kid almost died right next to me. And she's like, it's okay, sweetie, like this happens to him a lot. But I felt so uncomfortable because he was like making it seem like it was my fault. So I hurry up and call my mom, and my mom doesn't get there till like 30 minutes because their house is a little bit further away. And for all of you wondering what happened to him, I don't know because this happened this morning. Story time about how I broke up my best friend and his girlfriend. So it was our sophomore year in high school, and my best friend and I had known each other since we were like 8 years old. And I've always had a crush on him. Like anytime he would get a girlfriend, I would try and break them up. And it would work. Well, our freshman year of high school, he started dating this one girl. Well, when he started dating her, he distanced himself from me because she didn't like how much time we were spending together. So a few months go by and my birthday's coming up. And mind you, within these past few months, we only seen each other like twice. And he had me blocked on all social media. Well, our parents were really good friends because we lived in the same cul-de-sac. So my mom invited him and his parents to my birthday party. So at the end of my party, my friends left and him and his parents stayed. And my parents really didn't care if I drank alcohol, so we had like a whole bottle of vodka to ourselves. So we're in the basement and we're taking shots together. Well, I got him super drunk and he fell asleep. And while he was sleeping, I went on his phone and like for part 2. Part 2. And I was able to get into his phone because he showed my fingerprint from when we were best friends. So I unblocked myself on all social medias. And there was an ottoman pushed against the couch. So while he was sleeping, I was able to go lay next to him. So while I was laying next to him, I took a few pictures of us. And I saved them in his camera roll. And I also sent one to his girlfriend. And it was about 1 in the morning. Well, she opened it right away, and then she started going off and would not stop calling his phone. So after that, I turned his phone off. So he started to wake up, and then we started drinking more. And then we started fooling around. And while we were doing the nasty, I took a video, but he didn't see it because the phone was in front of me. And I had his girlfriend on Snapchat. So what did I do? I sent the motherfucking video to her. So the next day, obviously, he found out what happened. So then he came over to my house to talk to me. And I told him how I was upset that she was keeping him from me. So he broke up with her and started dating me.
Now, today's first story comes from a throwaway account titled, get this one, Am I the arsehole for leaving in the middle of the vacation because my boyfriend's mum tried to sleep in our bed? My boyfriend, 27, Paul, and I, 24 female, have been dating for a year. His mum is intrusive as fuck, but calls herself the protector. She'd insert herself in literally everything when it comes to Paul. Paul does notice her behaviour, but says he's learning to set boundaries with time. She invited me to join her family to go on a vacation. I agreed, though I still had to pay. If I am a guest, then am I expected to pay though? Anyways, we went together, and this entire time she kept following me and Paul everywhere, preventing us from being alone. I complained, but she reminded me that this is a family vacation, not a romantic getaway. So fast forward to day 2 at night. At 1 AM, Paul and I were already in bed and we heard a loud knocking on the door. Paul stayed in bed and I went to open the door and found his mum in a nightgown. I asked if I could help and she told me she couldn't sleep in her room after constantly hearing weird noises. I said, well, did you check with the staff to see what it was? She said no, then acted scared and said that the room was probably haunted and she wanted to spend the night with us. Before I could respond, she immediately rushed to my side of the bed and got in. Paul asked her what happened, and she told him about the ghosts, then asked if it was okay if she slept with us. I was baffled. He said yes, but I got angry and repeatedly said, "What the fuck?" She told me I could sleep with them or go sleep in her room if I wanted a bed, or sleep on the floor. Paul was okay with all those options, but I blew up and told them how fucked up that was and said that I was no longer intending on continuing this trip from hell, and then I started packing. Paul yelled at me after he failed to convince me to stay. I went to the hotel, spent the rest of the night there, then got on the first flight home. He never stopped trying to contact me via Viber, WhatsApp, and Facebook after I refused to return his phone calls. He texted me a bunch saying I should have stayed and not made a joke out of him and spoiled the whole thing for his family. When I pointed out how inappropriate his mum's behavior was, he called me nuts to think his mum was being inappropriate. Moreover, that I have a twisted mentality and view on his innocent relationship with his mum. He wants me to fix this mistake once they get back, but I haven't replied. Absolutely not the arsehole for putting up with that. That's something else, isn't it? And to me, if he's willing to let her cross boundaries like happened that night, oh my word, I couldn't imagine being in that room. Then, both Mum and Paul are willing to trample all over you no matter what to let Mum get her way. And it reminded me of a story we covered maybe a week or so ago where, the husband or the boyfriend at the time secretly was going to take their mum on holiday with them. And this was basically the next step. Luckily, in that story, the wife or the girlfriend left at the airport, but this might have been what happened after. But Miserable Airport says, not the arsehole, is called emotional incest. You're a right to leave. You will never be put first, and you need to decide if this is what you want for your future. Status Pattern says, not the arsehole, the only mistake you made was dating him in the first place. Cut your losses now. You did nothing wrong, and that behavior is disturbing. Honestly, I sent him a parting message along the lines of, I'm sorry, but as you cannot set boundaries with your mother, I will no longer be continuing this relationship. Her crawling into bed to sleep with us, mainly you, was the last straw in a long line of instances that you failed to support me on. Your mother wants to be the only woman in your life, and she has succeeded in getting her way. Hope you wake up one day and realize she is deliberately sabotaging your relationships so that she can be your one and only. Good luck with your future relationships. You will need it. James Chevy says, not the arsehole. That's fucking weird. And if he chose his mummy this time, he'll always choose her. Thankfully, this happened so you could find out. The Barker says, not the arsehole. That's weird for a 27-year-old man to sleep in the same bed as his parent. Run from this one. His mother will always be ahead of you to him. And Opie replies saying, oh, they saw nothing wrong with it. They called me the weird one, and she even had an attitude and was like, honey, it's not like I took over your marital bed. Like, what the fuck's that shit mean? She even said I was power hungry and attention seeking. Harles Bronson says, not the arsehole, don't respond. Leave him to his mummy issues because this crap just gets worse with time. ETA, there was no noise. His mum is threatened by your relationship with him. She doesn't want any competition for his attention. She will do anything she can to get between you, and he will always side with her. You will have a miserable life if you stay with him. Song Seng says, not the arsehole, that family is messed up. Good to know before you made a commitment. Get out now. Parents do not sleep with adult children of the opposite sex, and they don't share a bed with adult children and their partners. Now, what would you do in this situation if you was OP? I can only see one way, and that's getting out of there. But do you have a different opinion on the matter? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Critical Value 1511, who says, am I the arsehole for not giving my son part of his trust fund early because he refuses to sign a prenup with his fiancée? Some background. I have 4 kids. My eldest, John, 27 male, was with my first wife who died when he was 5. I eventually remarried and got 2 stepdaughters, Lisa, 25 female, and Anne, 18 female. Then my second wife and I had Mike, 13 male. My wife and I made sure to give them comfortable lives. When John and Lisa graduated from university, we gifted them condo units. We will do the same when Anne and Mike graduate. Also, all of them have trust funds that will be released when they turn 30. I'm quite proud of my kids. John and Lisa graduated from top universities. John has a high-paying job as an engineer while Lisa pursued a master's degree in business while she worked in marketing. Eventually, she started her own marketing consulting firm while being a part owner of a spa. John recently got engaged to his girlfriend of 2 years and they want to get married by the end of this year. She seems nice. However, she doesn't earn as much as him. My son spends a lot of money on her, on dates and expensive gifts. I understand that it's his money and he can spend it however he wants. She also moved in with him in the condo that I gave him, and as far as I know, she doesn't pay her share of utilities and association fees. And now John is asking to get part of his trust fund so he could use it for a wedding, since his fiancée doesn't have much money to contribute for their wedding. Now, here's where I might be the arsehole. I told him I'd release part of his trust fund early if he draws up a prenup with her. He got angry and told me I was being unfair because I released half of Lisa's trust fund last year to help put up her business. He told me that I was playing favourites. I told him that Lisa did something worthwhile with her trust fund, and while a wedding is worthwhile, I told him it doesn't seem safe to use his fund for a wedding to a girl who doesn't bring much to the table. I told him that I just wanted him to have some security by drawing up a prenup. He got angrier and said I was implying that his fiancée is a gold digger. My wife and the rest of the family refused to take sides. Am I the arsehole? Now, I've got to say, I feel in the middle of this one. You know, for the initial question about signing a prenup, I think prenups are a good idea. I know he's going to get the money in 3 years anyway, but in general, I think prenups are a good idea. But where you became the arsehole to me is the way you talk about her, the way you talk about your son's partner. When you first started talking about her, on the second line it said, you know, they want to get married by the end of this year. She seems nice. However, she doesn't earn as much as him. My son spends a lot of money on her, on dates and expensive gifts. And I just felt like it went on, and you know, John said in the end that he was implying that his fiancée is a gold digger, and that's the way it did feel to me. There was no talking about how she makes him happy, how they get on together. It was just your girlfriend who doesn't bring much to the table. And yes, again, I understand, you know, wanting your son to have security for that money with the prenup. I think that's the safe choice. But the way you talk about fiancé, I think I would have to say you're the arsehole. I know it's not the initial question or whatever. But the way you're dealing with it, I think makes you an arsehole to me. But Lizzie says, I don't think you're the arsehole for the condition of the prenup in order to have early access to his trust fund. But I think you're the arsehole for saying his fiancé doesn't bring much to the table. Why'd you feel that way about her? Solely because she makes less money than your son? Arisian Impulse says, you're implying his fiancée is a gold digger. That being said, as a family law attorney, I'm certainly aware of how much protection a prenup could grant your son. I think it's a wise idea, and it sounds like you approached it the wrong way. At the end of the day, if he needs the money that badly, he can always wait until he's 30. You are not wrong, but you're the arsehole for being insensitive and pretentious in your explanation of why. That's probably far better than I could say it. Cartwright James says, your son John is 27. That means he's going to get the full trust fund amount in 3 years. Unless there's a really compelling reason to believe that John's fiancée is not trustworthy. Is this really a wise move? You can really harm your relationship with your son by saying what you've said. Unless it's clear that there is a substantial risk to justify this, I don't think it's a good idea. It's just 3 years difference. Without knowing more about John's fiancée, it's impossible to say how reasonable you are being. But I'm going to guess that if you had good info, that would indicate that she is likely a gold digger. You would have included it. Judgment, you're the arsehole. Accurate Fisherman says you're the arsehole, not for having reservations necessarily. Although this does feel like classism because her earning potential doesn't seem to meet your requirements. In quotes, it doesn't seem safe to use this fund for a wedding to a girl who doesn't bring much to the table. Then goes on to say, this right here is the main reason you're an arsehole. Some people here will say you're within your legal right to withhold the money, but this is about morality. You've given no info about her character, you've only said she doesn't earn as much. You want her to seem like a gold digger, but you are the one who is all about the money. Monster Moon says everyone should get a prenup. That being said, the way you went about it was horrible. You clearly think that you and your family are better than this woman based solely on the fact that you make more money. That's gross. Super gross. Your kid is right. You did basically call her a gold digger. This could have been presented as a way to protect both of them in the event that something goes sideways, but nah. You decided to be 100% an arsehole about it. You're the arsehole. Now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation? Do you think the prenup is a good idea, or do you have another opinion on the matter? As always, I would love to hear it. So let me know in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, before we do move into this next story, there is mentions of infertility and miscarriages as well. So if you would like to skip the story, please use the timestamps down in the description below. And now we're going to move into it. So this one is from Rainbow Baby, who says, am I the arsehole for not allowing my cousin to announce her pregnancy at my baby shower for my rainbow baby? This is one thing that you read about on Facebook and think there is no way people actually act like this until it happens to you. My husband and I are finally expecting our rainbow baby after years of infertility and multiple miscarriages. It's safe to say we and our family are very freaking excited. My mother is probably the most excited. She's been planning our baby shower and making decorations for months. She's been the biggest help during this exciting yet scary pregnancy. A few weeks ago, my aunt told my mother and I that my cousin is pregnant. We are very happy for her. However, my aunt said their plan is to announce her pregnancy at my baby shower, since we are having a big party anyways. She says it's not a big deal and we can both share the day. I said absolutely not, because we've been waiting for this day forever, and it should be all about me and my rainbow baby. My mother is on my side and told my aunt that they better not announce anything at the party. My aunt dropped it and nothing else was ever said. Last Saturday was my baby shower. It was everything I've waited for. Everything is going good. No one has announced my cousin's pregnancy. When it was time for us to eat my cake, my aunt said, hold on everyone, and went outside to her car to grab something. That was the moment I knew something was up. My mother and I follow her outside, and my aunt decided to bring a cake announcing my cousin's pregnancy, and some presents for my cousin. My mother immediately told my aunt that she will not be bringing those back into the rec center, and they will not be ruining my day. My aunt started throwing a fit, screaming, this is a baby shower, it's for babies. Cousin is having a baby too, so this day is about her too. My cousin now joins the screaming and says how pissed off she is that everything is always about me, and why do we always have to be happy for me? They would not stop screaming, so they were kicked out by the rec center security, and half our family was upset that I wouldn't let her have a moment at my shower, so they left too. Now everyone is bashing my mother, myself, and Rainbow Baby on Facebook, group family text, anything at all. So Reddit, was I the arsehole for not allowing my cousin to announce her pregnancy at my Rainbow Baby shower? If anyone has any questions or wants to know more, I will gladly go into detail in the comments. Thanks. Edit, I am trying my hardest to reply to everyone who took the time to comment. Thank you all so much. Firstly, OP, a huge congratulations on your pregnancy, and I'm sorry that happened at your baby shower. As soon as you got to the part where you said my aunt dropped it and nothing else was ever said, and then you said last Saturday was my baby shower, I thought, oh no, here we go. And it always goes through my head, like you said at the very beginning, there's no way people actually act like this. And I think, what goes through their heads, you know, someone's special day. And we've seen it in like multiple occasions on this channel, like weddings, birthdays. Someone wants to announce something on someone's special day, and you're like, what goes through your head to think, you know, that's an appropriate thing to do? And not only because, like, you know, it's just hugely inappropriate in general, but also the financial aspect. I know this is not the big thing of it, but OP and family has put like money into providing this party for people, this get together, and then they think that they can just, you know, we'll share this day. We'll take half of this day that you've put money towards and we'll celebrate my occasion as well. I mean, come on now. I'd be hugely embarrassed. But I can't believe, you know, that she even went outside and thought, I'm going to go and get the cake. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. I got an announcement to make. Just gee whiz. But Mooseheart says, not the arsehole. Absolutely not the arsehole. This was your day that you've been trying to make possible for years. If she wanted to steal the spotlight, she should have spent the money, time, and effort on her own shower or announcement party. I would have absolutely lost my shit and told her to get fucked. You and your mum are 100% in the right. Unable Zone says, not the arsehole. In my opinion, this is the equivalent to proposing at a wedding. You don't go to someone's party and make it all about yourself. Even if it wasn't a rainbow baby, she would still be in the wrong for trying to make your baby shower about her. Congratulations on your baby. Lord Nem says, in a word, no. Not the arsehole. When will people get it through their heads that it's inappropriate to co-opt someone else's celebration to make milestone announcements? To everyone tutting you and your mother, it was not a celebration they planned for their milestone, and if someone did it to them, they'd be upset. Capricious Penguin says, not the arsehole. They sound like a bunch of entitled monsters. I suggest you deactivate your Facebook for a while and block their numbers because you don't need this shit when you are pregnant. Congratulations on your rainbow baby. Don't let these jerks ruin your joy. And one more from Mara who says, not the arsehole. Your cousin's mother had a lot of nerve. A baby shower is designed to shower one mother with baby gifts unless stated otherwise in the invitation. Now, what would you do in this situation if you was OP? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below and let's have another story. And our next story comes from Help With Lunch, who says, am I the arsehole for getting angry at my wife for not packing me a lunch for work? The other day, I, 29 male, overslept for work. It was completely my fault. I'd stayed up too late, binging a series and slept through my alarm. I'd woken up about 30 minutes later than I should have. There is almost no worse feeling than realizing that you've overslept, so I woke up in a panic. I immediately called my boss to let him know I was running late and then began a frantic effort to get ready for work as quickly as possible. My wife, 28 female, doesn't always remember day to day when I have to be at work since my starting time varies by a few hours. So she didn't necessarily know that I was running late until I called up to her and told her. As I was about to jump in the shower, I yelled up to her and asked her, "Hun, I'm running late. I really need you to be quick and throw a lunch together for me. Just a sandwich and some fruit and chips and a couple of bottles of pop." She called down, "No," and I yelled back up, "Please, just this once, help me out." Here's the thing. My wife has some weird hang up about packing lunches for me. She grew up in a family where her father always expected her mother to pack his lunch for him, and according to her, he was kind of entitled about it. So while my wife doesn't mind cooking dinner for me or doing my laundry, not that I always expected, she just has a problem with packing a lunch for me, as it makes her feel like too much of a servant. I don't totally get it, but it's her thing, and it's never been a big deal before the other day. I just always pack my own lunch. However, even after asking this one time, when I came upstairs, I found that my lunch cooler was empty. I looked over at my wife just sitting on the couch on her phone and said, "Really? Were you too busy?" She answered, "Pack your own lunch, it's not my job." She only works part-time, and it absolutely beyond pissed me off to watch her sitting there leisurely scrolling through her phone while she knew I was stressed and scrambling. I left without a lunch and had to buy food from the vending machine to get me through the day. When I got home, I was still pissed and we got into a huge fight. She told me that I knew her boundary about packing a lunch for me. I told her she could put her hang-up aside that one time to help me out. Edit. Thanks to everyone who's taken time to respond. A few things just based on questions I'm getting. 1. We both do housework. I won't say it's completely split down the middle. She probably does more laundry, cooking and dishes than I do, but I do that stuff fairly often as well, and we both clean at about equal rates. I also do more of the yard work. 2. People think my wife may have some childhood trauma about this. I probably didn't explain it well, but it's not nearly to that level. Her father is a decent guy, she'd tell you that herself. It's just kind of go under her skin watching her mum always pack his lunch, and him not to appreciate it much. 3. I could technically have food delivered there, but given the location and where I am in the building, it's just far more of a pain than it's worth. 4. Finally, I understand that it was my fault that I overslept. I'm not blaming anyone else. It's very rare for me, but this one time I just let myself get too caught up in what I was watching. What upset me though is that if my wife overslept and stressed and frantic, I would have helped her out in any way possible to get her out the door as fast as possible, even if it would have just saved her 2 minutes. I wouldn't have sat with my feet up playing video games and just watched her struggle. That's my side of it. While hers is that she's not going to ever pack me a lunch, and I know that, and that's that. And we're going to start straight away with Pufferlump212, who says, gonna go against the curve and say, no one's an arsehole here. It was one lunch when you were running late, and each of us has been late at some point. Marriage should be a partnership helping one another, and this was a situation where some help would have been nice. Amy Burr says, meh, everyone sucks here. You know your wife's boundary, but still asking and being upset when she says no. Your wife refusing to help, despite that being the point of marriage. Partners help each other, even if it's doing something they don't normally do. Of course, this is within reason. For future, pack your lunch the night before. Easy grab and go. Getting by curious says, not the arsehole, going against the grain massively here, but marriage is a partnership. You asked her this one time to help you and she refused because her dad was an arsehole. Yes, oversleeping was your fault, but it was a mistake. It's not like you did it intentionally, and partners are supposed to help each other, even when it's inconvenient, and even when whatever rut they're in is their fault, barring someone continually doing it, but that wasn't the case here. I cannot fathom me or my partner ever refusing to do something that would help the other. Even if it's something we don't like to do or even have a hang up about. It was one time, so it's a little bit of a ridiculous hill she chose to die on for someone she loves, in my opinion. Jay Darcy says, everyone sucks here. What a stupid, trivial thing to get in a huge fight about. Could she have helped you out? Sure. That would have been a nice thing for her to do, but it is your fault for waking up late. Yes, and also, you did know her boundary. Even if you think it's a stupid boundary, it's one she made quite clear to you. And you didn't even ask, you kind of demanded, which is where you're more of an arsehole. You can ask, but don't just demand. ARC says, you're the arsehole. Maybe if you'd asked politely instead of barking, I need you to make me a lunch, she might have had a different response. She probably finds it degrading to be treated like hired help. And there was a whole mixed bunch of opinions there, and they continued with that sort of format as well. But what do you guys make of this particular situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, as always, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for getting involved on the daily, being involved in the channel, on Twitter, and wherever you are. It just mind-blowing, honestly. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.